From analog
Hi, Jim. You've a great signal up here. You're 5.9 plus.
to digital.
We are everywhere you want to be. This is the CQ Blind Hams Podcast.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Robert, NC5R. Welcome to this February 2025 Techzoom meeting / podcast. We are currently on Zoom, and you're likely listening to this at a later time as a podcast. We are part of the Blind Hams network. We're live every day on the Blind Hams digital bridge. You can find out all kinds of information about how to connect to our network by going to the website blindhams.com. We have with us tonight a special guest, but before we introduce him, I'd like to hand the mic off to Joel, W0CAS, to say good evening to us and let us know anything that you would like us to know that's going on in your corner of the Blind Hams network. Take it away, Joel.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you everybody for coming tonight. This is kind of a milestone for me tonight. This will be my last Techzoom as executive producer. I'm passing off the reins to Marvin, W5MRR, who's going to be gathering up hosts and co-hosts and speakers for the future. I think I've been doing this for at least 5 years as a podcast, and the Techzoom probably for at least 2 or 3 years. So I'm kind of running out of ideas, so I'm going to be passing it over to Marvin starting next month. I'm not sure who he's going to have next month or what we're going to be talking about, but I'm sure Marvin will do a great job, and we're looking forward to that. Also looking forward to tonight's speaker, which Robert will introduce now.
All right. Well, thanks for all the work that you've done, Joel. You've done a great job with this over the years, and I, for one, certainly appreciate it, and I'm sure a lot of people do. Well, tonight we're going to talk about some possibility for adding some speech to some radios that would talk to some degree out of the box, but our special guest, Travis Siegel, has done some programming to add additional speech to these radios. And it's wonderful to have you here, Travis. Thank you so much for taking some of your valuable time to spend with us here on the Blind Hams Techzoom. I'm just going to hand it over to you, and if you would just take the microphone and fill in all the things I left out. Tell us a little bit about who you are and a little bit about these radios you've been working with.
I think I can handle that. Sorry. My name is Travis Siegel, as Robert said, and I've only been a ham for a couple of years. I got my license in 22, but I've been wanting to get my license for many, many more years since then. Back when I was a teenager, somebody I knew got their ham license, and that was in that was probably in the mid 80s, I think it was. And I'd been wanting to get a license ever since then. And I got a hold of the, who was it at that point? Handy Hams. And at that point, it was when they had first dropped the code requirement to get a tech license. And they gave me the Now You're Talking book. And then they basically vanished. So I didn't get anywhere with that. And then I decided to try again a few years ago. Around the 2018, 2019 timeframe. And that didn't work out so well either for me. And I was about ready to give up again when I just happened to mention to somebody I knew that I was looking to get licensed. And he said, well, I know somebody who can help you out. He lives in Michigan. And he knew a guy in Washington who was part of a group based in Texas that gave the tests online, which is what I needed. And I'm like, okay, that works for me. So I went and studied and got my license in October, I think it was. and I passed the tech and general the same day. And I wasn't ready for the extra class yet. I took that a month later and passed that, so I'm all set.
Well, congratulations. That's an awesome accomplishment. Good for you.
Yeah, I was very happy about that. And I kind of rushed the first two because at the time they were giving away a free radio if you passed if you got licensed as a tech, and I wanted the free radio. Turns out I hardly ever used it because it didn't speak at all, and I could set the channels and stuff, but not knowing what they were, it was kind of a hassle. So I actually passed that on to somebody else recently, a few months ago.
So
I joined another group and gave them the radio and said, "Here, give it to somebody who needs one."
are you yourself a blind or visually impaired ham?
Yes, yes, I am. I've been blind since the age of 3, actually.
Okay.
That was an unfortunate occurrence.
Well, I
But,
wasn't sure, and I thought maybe that was something our audience would like to know, just to know whether where you're coming from, whether you're actually a user of this speech technology or whether you just were interested in programming it. So, thank you for that. Tell us a little bit about these radios you've been working with.
The one that I specifically built this on was the QUANSHENG UV-K5. It apparently also works on the Rativis or however you say that. The RA79 is basically the same radio as the UV-K5. And Joel says it works on another radio, which I'm going to get my hands on one of those too. And I've been told, although I haven't tried it because I didn't want to brick the radio, but now that mine is broken, I might try it anyway, that it can work on the UV-5R, but I haven't tried it. So I'm taking that with a very huge grain of salt because I think their menus are different. I don't know if it would work on that or not. But basically, I ran across. I don't know if you guys are aware, but when QUANSHENG released the K5, they also released source code to go with it, which was pretty much unheard of in the commercial world. That was very interesting. I don't know who QUANSHENG is or who they're related to, but I don't know if the software was leaked and then later they just decided to support it, or if it was something they decided from the get-go. I have no idea. But a lot of people took it, modified it, and made it do more things. And by the time I ran across it, it had had several changes already. So I picked it up and decided to add as many speech prompts as I could get into the software, into the firmware. And so I took it and ran with it. It took me roughly a week. Of course, since then, I've lost the code a couple of times and had to recreate it twice, I think, because of my skills with that revision control system I use isn't all that great, and I wind up overwriting stuff even though it's not supposed to. So I've had to recreate stuff a couple of times, but second time only took a couple hours. I got better at it. But basically, I took every menu option and added, if there isn't, a lot of them have speech prompts. They'll say like, and Joel will show you later. It'll say like squelch, or it'll say power. But a lot of the menus, maybe a little less than half, didn't have anything I could use to say what the menu was. So I just numbered those instead. And I think that's an easy way to tell what's going on. And in the documentation, I have a README file that goes with the firmware, which mentions all of this, what the menus are and what the options are set to do. A lot of them I just had to number the options because there wasn't any way to specify what they were. I had to get creative on a couple of them, like the speech menu, for instance. It has no speech, which is off, and then it has English. And of course, there wasn't anything for English, so I used the word end. And then they have Chinese, which obviously there wasn't an English phrase for that. So I just said invalid. I used the invalid string for that, which, is amusing or sad, depending on how you look at it. I find it amusing, but some people probably find it sad. But anyway.
So just to make sure I'm understanding, if you use the invalid string, then does the radio say the word invalid when you get to the Chinese language prompt? I'm not quite clear on how that works.
Yeah, it goes down. It says off, and then it says invalid, and then it says end for the English.
Okay.
So I think that's what it says. Joel can run through that menu to let you guys see that. But a lot of them are numbered. A lot of the ones that didn't have speech a built-in prompt for it are numbered.
So you have that.
and-
I guess there's a set vocabulary that the
There
radio
is.
has, and you have to work with that.
Right, exactly. And I don't know what format those are in, and they're on a chip that's built into the radio anyway, so
Okay.
they can't really be modified. But I'm thinking at some point I can probably take some of the space of like the fonts or something and try to get more speech in there so it speaks better. But I haven't played around with that too much yet.
Okay, but
But
you've had
I was
some
happy
success.
to get that running. Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry,
have
say-
had some success with that. I'm sorry. It also has an FM radio, and that is going when I did some testing, and it looks like I'll be able to make 100% accessible for the FM radio,
Very
because
cool.
yeah, you don't have to worry about channel names and all that. It's all numbers, and they have all the numbers, so that's not a problem.
But you have, it sounds like, been able to increase the number of items that speak. You've got more things speaking now than originally did, it sounds like.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, every single menu option speaks now. Now, whether it's a number or whether it's a name depends on what voice strings were already there. But everything is selectable with speech. Now, once you get in the menu, some of the menus I didn't do anything with them. I wasn't able to make them accessible because of the nature of the menus. But eventually, I'll just have everything numbered, and you just have to refer to the README file to see what you're selecting. The CTCSS and the DCS tones are something I had started working on before I made one of my oopsies and lost the source code and had to rebuild it again.
Oh boy.
So yeah, unfortunately, those are not speaking in the version I released. Buddy Brandon is a big fan of typing everything in from the keyboard, including the CTCSS prompts and stuff, and that seems to work if you catch it just right. But I couldn't get it to work reliably, so I'm definitely gonna have to put speech on those. It's interesting though, some of the speech prompts I had to finagle them a little bit. So you'll notice, like on the step settings, they have various options like 0.25 and 1.25, 1.5, things like that. There's no point symbol on the voice, so I just had to I couldn't put it in a pause either, so I just had it just speaks, and then it like for instance the 2.5, it'll say 2 and then 50. Now that way it's supposed to be a decimal, but it's not there. So that was the only thing I could think of to fix that.
Okay,
Because
and
some of them could be two things. Like one of them is like 0.5 and one of them is 5. So I didn't want to get those confused.
right. So it sounds like with a little bit of paying attention to your README document, that someone could pretty quickly get the hang of what you've done and how this works.
Yeah, pretty easily. The channel labels, obviously they're never going to speak without some serious hardware modifications, because I can't do anything with what's on there. I don't know if entering the channel names is ever going to be. I have an idea of what can be done with that, but I know most people aren't going to like it because it's going to be like ASCII codes instead of letters. But that was just a thought tumbling around in my brain.
Okay.
So with this particular software, I'm still working on it. It has a little bit more that I can do with it. Like I said, the CTCSS codes, the DCS codes, those can definitely be made more accessible than they are. A couple of the menus can probably get a little more accessible. I'd like to make all of the menus, even if they don't tell you what's going on, at least number all the options in them, which is going to be a task for some of them, because some of the menus have a lot of options. But for the most part, I mean, you can get in there. You can set your squelch and your step and power and all that stuff, which are some of the main things I use a lot. So that's what I was trying to get working.
Well, Joel, can you give us a little bit of a demo on how you set the squelch and the power and things like that?
Well, I've got the firmware on it, but I haven't changed anything on the radio other than I created a code plug using the CPS that came with the radio, and I got 2 channels, my clear node and my Shari node. But I'll turn it on and we'll go through the menus. A while ago I went up, so I went the wrong way because, one good thing about this radio, it's very, very inexpensive. What was
Yeah.
it? $30?
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah.
About $30, and it has USB-C charging under the there's a Kenwood plug on the right, the Kenwood jack for your headphones and mics and programming cable. Right below it, there's a little flap that you can flip up, and then you can charge it with USB-C. That's one of the reasons I bought it, because I'm interested in any radio that has USB-C charging for
Yep.
grid down emergency situations, and you don't have a drop-in charger in your car, so you want to charge it. So I'll turn it on. It's a small radio. It's probably about the size of a UV-5R. The speaker's a little better than a UV-5R.
Channel mode 4.
So that's on channel 4. So we're going to go hit the menu button.
Frequency step 2, 5.
There's a frequency step. Now,
See, here the pause, it's at 2 and then 5. That's a 2.5 frequency step.
oh, okay. It's 2.5. And to change it, how do you change it? Do you just hit the number?
No,
go
you-
to number 2.
Well, I don't know if the numbers would work, but you can use the up and down arrows.
Okay. Okay. But you have to hit enter to enter in the frequency step.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So we'll go down. I don't know what 3 is. What am I doing? Oh, I know what. I waited too long. You got to hit,
Frequency step
No,
25.
let's go down.
2 hour 2.
Power.
Yeah. Power has low, medium, and
So
high.
was that
You're on
medium? Is one,
Hour 2.
Yeah.
yeah.
DCS off.
Is that DCS or?
Yeah. It's a DCS off.
Off?
So you don't have one set, which is what you want.
Yep.
DCS off. CTCSS. Frequency direction off.
So that's your plus minus.
Yes. Now use those. Those are interesting.
How does those work? You just
Yeah,
enter.
the offset frequency. Yeah,
Yeah.
just use the buttons between.
Frequency direction off.
So hit enter again or menu.
Yeah, and then just use the buttons underneath the menu button. Go up or down with those. That's what's supposed to change the values.
I may have an older version of your firmware.
Yeah,
It's just giving
apparently.
me some readings. Which way is the back? Oh, there's the back button.
Frequency direction off. Offset frequency. Channel bandwidth 1.
That's a pretty good. That probably wasn't in the hard coded in the firmware, was it? That word, or was it?
Channel
What, the offset frequency? Yeah.
Channel
it was.
bandwidth. Channel band. Did it say that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it did.
on.
Yeah, they had that in
Scrambler
there.
off.
Yeah, we don't need the scrambler, I don't think.
Busy
No, we do
lockout
not.
off.
Busy lock.
11.
And now we're getting into the menus that didn't have anything. So you numbered them, correct? Number
Yes.
11,
12. 1.
12 is set to number 1.
13. On.
13.
14. On.
So that's probably all the spoken menus. Is that correct? Or is it
There's a few more.
a few more? Okay.
Yeah, once you get into
Memory
the
channel.
Oh, yeah,
oh,
memory
there's one.
channel.
There's memory channel. Yeah.
Delete channel.
Delete a channel.
17. 18. 19. 20. 22.
My battery may be getting low.
22. 23. 24. 25. 26. 20. Off.
Nothing's off.
Transmit over time. Transmit over time. 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's yeah.
Save mode. 1. 2. 4.
So what's that for saving a channel?
So
Save-
that's to save your battery.
Oh, okay.
That's for the mode when you're in save mode for the battery. It will it does something so that I'm not 100% sure, but it helps save the battery by like
Turning the screen off, probably the backlight. Probably
either
helps.
that or something with the when you're listening.
Yeah. I want to
You know,
keep
it'll
going because
yeah
it's going to time out and I'm going to start all
yeah
up.
yeah
1 5 1 4 1 3
Well, did I do that?
1 2.
Going
I'm
back
going the
up.
wrong way.
I'm going down. I'm on the down arrow. Anyway, you get the idea. And the FM
Uh-oh.
work, works very well. It actually, I've got a couple of other radios, but this is the one I always pick up.
Now Atlanta Motor Speedway, but some drivers just kind of say, you know what?
That's NASCAR race. That's what I use this radio for. I put the NASCAR race on it, and I got a little adapter to plug in the headphone jack, and I run it through my mixer. Works
there you go.
great. But that
You-
speaker is a pretty good little speaker.
You're
Yeah,
getting
it
to
is a
that
nice
race
speaker.
by going
I like
to the
that.
FM radio.
All you have to hit is the pound button and the 0. And it's laid out like a GD77 keyboard, Robert. You know, the 1 2 3 star 4 5 6 0
Uh-huh.
7 8 9 pound. It's laid out like that. And at the top of the radio on the left by the screen, there's a little button that protrudes out. That's the menu. And right below the menu is up and down arrow. And right below the up and down arrow is the cancel button. That's it. There's 2 SK buttons on the side and then the PTT. That's pretty much the radio. It's got a big old volume on and off knob, and it's got a protection right beside it that if you bump it on your shirt or anything or on your pants, it will not, turn the radio off and on. It's
Yeah,
kind
which
of
is
a
handy.
weird little.
Do you have the version that if you hold in the menu button, it tells you the frequency?
Yes, I think so. Let me try it.
4 3 5 2 5.
Yeah,
Yep. So
there you go. Yeah, and I rigged that so since this radio receives a lot more than it transmits on, obviously. I rigged it so because it goes up to like 1.3 or 1.4 gigahertz or something. If you're above 1 gigahertz, I don't know if that version has it, but the last one that I released did. It beeps before it says the numbers so that you realize it's over 1 gigahertz.
now does this radio? I'm not with the hacked firmware, and I'm going to use that term loosely. There's a couple of YouTube channels that play around with this hacked firmware on these radios, and they say it'll do HF. Is that correct? Does this version go down into like 12 meters? I believe it was.
I think it's down to 17. It goes to like 18 megahertz or something.
Oh, wow. So I thought, yeah, that's great. So it's for
Now,
30
obviously, it doesn't
bucks. It's a
transmit
great little
it,
radio.
Yeah, it
right.
uses the BKF 4819 chip, I think it is. And that has all that stuff built in. And a lot of the newer Chinese radios use that. A whole bunch of them use that chip. So it's a really handy chip. And I actually bought me I didn't know what kind of chips they were, and I was curious, and I found them on one of the Chinese sites where you could buy the reel if you wanted the whole reel of them. I didn't need that
do
many.
with a reel of them.
Yeah, I didn't need that many, so I just bought 10. I figured, maybe I could get one of these sites that makes the circuit boards for you. I figured I could get them to solder them on for me because they're surface mount, which you can't do anything with those if you're blind. You gotta get somebody to do the soldering for you because they're not pin through things.
Right. Yeah. So
But,
what were you going to do with them? Take some other radios and put that chip in it, or what was your plans for
Actually,
that
that's
chip?
not a bad plan. I hadn't considered that, but that might actually be a better plan than what I was doing. No, there are some mods that you can make to that radio. Somebody has one where you can put a new board in it and you can get 20 meters on it, which I thought was a really nice hack. It requires a hardware modification, which obviously we can't do. But I was wondering if I could get a hold of that board and put it in a new case and hack this software a whole lot more. Maybe we could make that a standalone 20-meter radio, which would be very interesting. I also
Like a
have,
little 5-watt QRP radio.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
there's some folks that make the I don't know if you've heard of it, the UBIX and the SBIX.
Yes. I bought one of Ishar Farhan's. I bought one of the BidX 40s when they came out. Haven't
Yeah.
bought one of the Micro BidX. I haven't bought one of those yet, but they've got a
No,
new one.
Yeah, the
that's
ZBIX.
ZBidX. Yeah.
Yeah, the ZBIX, yeah, which I want to get my hands on one of those because that is
Yes.
running a Raspberry Pi,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very easy to add speech to a Raspberry Pi. So I'm thinking all we have to do is grab one of those, load the speech on the darn thing, and
You
we've got a
speak
talking
up
radio.
or yes.
I'm sorry,
Unfortunately,
did I move away from that?
it's 20 watts or 10 watts. Yeah, but still.
It's 5 to 10. It'll run at 10, but it gets too hot at 10.
Right.
So they
Yeah.
say run it at 5. But I wanted to get a hold of one of those, put the speech on it, and then it should be completely accessible at that point.
Now, have you heard about the Zygu X6100?
No, I've seen a couple of the Zydus, but I didn't know if they had speech or not.
They don't, but it's sort of like this radio. A guy named Oleg over in Russia or Ukraine, he wrote some firmware. They got an SD card slot in it, and you can just
Nice.
take and write the firmware to this SD card, slide it in there, and push a couple buttons and turn it on. That radio starts talking.
Oh,
And
nice.
it is a 10-watt radio. We have Bonhams that have that radio. It's a pretty nice radio. Now, he wanted to do some stuff to the firmware, and Zygu, they had a problem with something. So he decided he's going to go build his own radio. And
Good
when he
for him.
gets that done, then we will have another accessible HF radio.
There we go. Yeah, the other thing I did that there's again on another one of those Chinese sites, they had some around $100 or so radios that came with open source firmware on them. So I ordered one of those, and I'm going to see if I can do something with that. It currently it doesn't use a Raspberry Pi. It uses the other real popular thing, which I could tell you any day except for when I'm talking to you about it.
Arduino. Arduino.
Yeah, the Arduino. Yeah.
Yeah.
It uses the Arduino, but they both can use C. So I grabbed one of
Right.
those and wondering because I have speech synthesizers here that are external. They're actually Parallax made them. They were based on the Deck Talk chip, and I have 3 of those. So if nothing else, I could make at least 3 of those radios talk. But I'm hoping I'll be able to port it to the Raspberry Pi and add speech that way. So that's going to be one of my later projects.
That's cool. I've always had a dream of coming up, finding a couple $100,000 and building our own radio.
Oh gosh,
Finding some people
that'd be
like
awesome.
you, find some people like you and my buddy Russ up in Kentucky. He uses Visual Basic. He writes in Visual Basic. He's written some software for us that we have. I've got it on the Bonhams network bonhams.com website. I've got a program called Blind Cat. It's a cat control program for the 590SG and the 590S Kenwood radios, HF. And we got one, it's a net checker. It's a program that I use on Sundays for the Bonhams cross country net on HF that I do net control duty sometimes. And it's my logging program for the nets. It's a great program that he wrote for that. He's written several programs for us that I have up on the website. Some call sign lookup. You type in call sign, it'll look it up for you. So he
Yeah, I
uses some
need one of those.
databases.
Yeah, I had a Yaesu 857, which is not very accessible, and I was working on writing my own cat software to make that thing talk. But unfortunately, when I got the radio, it wasn't in great shape to start with. But now it's mainly a receiver. It doesn't transmit anymore. But
Too bad, Mike. We got software to fix that.
oh, really?
Yeah, Ian Spencer, and I'm pretty sure the 857 is one of the radios that Ian's FT Talk.
Yeah,
That's a Yaesu
yeah,
radio, right?
yeah,
I'm pretty sure there's FT Talk will work on that
yeah. It
radio.
probably does. But again, it doesn't transmit anymore. I think I don't know if it was my efforts of figuring out how to program the silly thing, or if it just was going to die anyway because it wasn't in very good shape when I got it. But it came to me for free, so I'm not complaining. It still receives like a champ. I can hear all over the world on that thing. I just can't transmit. So
Well, that's about all I've got. Robert, you got any questions?
No, but it's fascinating to hear about the work that you're doing. And I'm really glad that you're out there doing it, because it's been a real disappointment to me over the years how there's been, until very recently, not a lot done by manufacturers to make their radios really accessible. We've got now the Kenwood THD75A, which is very, very accessible, but it's a very expensive radio. And so, I think this work is something that really needs to be done. And I appreciate the fact that you're taking this on. Thank you for doing it.
oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been wanting to make, not exactly make radios. I mean, I wouldn't mind making radios. I would love to make a business out of this, building accessible radios. That would be awesome. But did I lose you guys?
No,
No,
we got
no,
you.
go ahead.
Okay. All right. My computer said something. I thought maybe I switched away by accident. Um, yeah, I've actually been wanting to build. I love building things. It doesn't matter what it is. I'll build anything. But and when Parallax came out with their basic stamp is when I started messing with all this stuff. And then they got a new one, a multi-core processor called the Propeller, and then they went to the Propeller 2, and it's amazing what those tiny little single board computers can do. And at one point, they had an FM radio chip, which I grabbed, and I got one for my son too. He actually built an FM radio for a project in class, which got him into the advanced class. I forget what they called it, but the one where I'm not sure what they called it. The not Mensa, but something similar for kids, the grade school kids. But anyway, he got into that program by building the radio. That was really cool. He loved that. And I've used both. I still have two of them, and I have them both in something right now. And obviously that talks, but FM radios are pretty simple anyway, so it doesn't really matter if they talk. You can still find what you're looking for. But I that's what I started with, and then I was always wondering if we could make the ham radio speak. And when I saw that source code, I'm like, that firmware, I'm like, hey, I can fix this to make it speak more. Well, that's why I grabbed it. And I plan on working on more radios if I can find them.
It's
So
a source code, and I've watched some videos of. I don't know if you're familiar with Roger Clark down in Australia. He's the one of the developers of the Open GD77 firmware, and how he reverse engineered that source code for that radio, and
that
he
must have been
basically
interesting.
he destroyed several radios, cut them apart,
Oh,
and
wow.
and soldered leads onto the processor, and then run the what's the process? He did things, and that way
The
he could
debugger.
see, the debugger, and he was seeing how the source code was written and reverse engineered it, and that sort of how the GD77 project opened GD77. Now, I like to say this before I go. It used to be an open project. They used to have open source firmware. He used to
Yes, it
have the
did.
source code on GitHub.
Right.
That's how Joe Stephen got involved and was writing it and forked it and turned it into the accessible GD77 project. And then Roger Clark pulled that source code, and he had a couple of excuses that didn't hold much water.
Oh, that's a
But now nothing he does is open, but he kept the name Open GD77 project.
oh, that's a shame.
But yeah, it really is. But he did open a great door for blind and visually impaired hams by putting speech, and that's thanks to Ian Spencer. Ian Spencer from England or Germany contacted Roger and asked him, if he could put speech on them, and they did, and that really helps out. And I've got a TYT 9600 mobile that has it. And I'm just ordered a TYT MD UV-380. Robert has one of those. That's a great little radio, isn't it, Robert?
It is. It's a nice radio.
Is that one talk out of the box?
No, you have to put the Open GD77 firmware on it.
Okay, is that the same with the 9800 or 9600?
Yes.
That's a shame.
None of them speak out of the box, but just in a few minutes you can put the firmware on it. About as quick as you can on the QUANSHEng. They do have a CPS, and it makes it easier because you can write your code plug from the CPS and then upload it to the radio. You don't have to worry about taking it back out of the, putting the original firmware on, uploading the CPS, and re-uploading.
Yeah.
That can be a pain. I'm
Oh
surprised.
gosh, yeah.
I'm hoping someday that maybe you'll be able. You ever tried to develop a CPS?
I have not. It's probably not too terribly difficult. I did reverse engineer when Arctic was big. I got tired of having to swap my discs every time I used a different Arctic device because they were tied to the serial number on the device. And I got so tired of that, I finally dug into the damn software and hacked the stupid thing so I could just run a program to change the serial number.
000.
No, it would match the device I had on it, but I never gave that software to anybody else, but I just got tired of having to swap my
That's crazy.
speech my software every time I plugged in another. Oh, where's the other one? I don't know where it is. Oh, darn it. Now I got to go switch the software. No, I got tired of doing that. So,
Well, very cool. Why don't we go ahead and bring this official part of it to a close? If people want to stay on and chat more, certainly that's no problem with that. But I think we've covered it all pretty well in terms of what we have to say about what you're working with the radios. Again, thanks a lot for telling us about it, and I hope it will encourage people to get some of these radios and give that firmware a try. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and bring this this session of the February Techzoom to a close. Again, everything that we do, there's information about it on blindhams.com. Don't hesitate to check it out and figure out how to get on the network if you have a license and come up and join us. We're there and we're enjoying the company of each other, and we always welcome newcomers onto the Blind Hams Digital Bridge. But this has been Robert, NC5R, your host this evening for the February Techzoom. And I guess until the March Techzoom, I will just say 73, everyone.
73.
73.
Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and visit www.blindhams.com.